Sample question paper Sociology Code 039 Class 12 2024-25 Time 3 hours Maximum marks 80 General instructions. Friends, you can pause the video and read all the general instructions. Section A. Question 1. Assertion A. The modern state had begun to take an active interest in the development of early forms of public health management, policing and maintenance of law and order. Reason are, this new and constantly expanding sphere of state activity required the systematic science of statistics. So friends, answer is B. Both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation of A. Question 2. Assertion A. For most of us who are born and live in India, social inequality and exclusion no longer are facts of our lives. Reason are, the everydayness of social inequality and exclusion often makes them appear inevitable, almost natural. Answer is D. A is false and R is true. Question 3. While population rises in geometric progression, agricultural production can only grow in arithmetic progression. Which of the following appropriately explains the progressions? Answer C. First and third. First is 2, 4, 8, 16 and 2, 4, 6, 8 respectively. Third, 3, 6, 12, 24 and 3, 6, 9, 12 respectively. Question 4. Assertion A. It was in cultural and domestic spheres that caste has proved strongest. Reason are, while some boundaries may have become more flexible or porous, the borders between groups of castes of similar socio-economic status are still heavily patrolled. Friends, answer is A. A and R are true and R is the correct explanation of A. Question 5. Which of the following statements is not true with regard to colonialism and caste? Answer B. All of the changes brought about by colonialism were intended or deliberate. Read the passage given below. There is no necessary relationship between any specific form of community and the modern form of the state. Any of the many bases of community identity like language, religion, ethnicity and so on may or may not lead to nation formation. There are no guarantees. Based on the given passage, answer question 6 and 7. Question 6. Cultural diversity can often be perceived as a source of threat to states because answer C. First, second and third only. First is states see all forms of community identity as dangerous rivals. Second, control is difficult in case of heterogeneous identities. And third, suppressing cultural diversity can be very costly in terms of the subdued community. Which of the following is not true for a community conflict? Answer D. Community conflicts can be resolved easily. Question 8. Assertion A. Today, barring the northeastern states, there are no areas of the country that are inhabited exclusively by tribal people. Reason are, the term Adivasi connotes political awareness and the assertion of rights. So friends, answer is B. Both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation of A. Read the passage given below. A great many students and office workers around the world go to work only for 5 or 6 days and rest on the weekends. Yet, very few people who relax on their day off realize that this holiday is the outcome of a long struggle by workers. That the work day should not exceed 8 hours. That men and women should be paid equally for doing the same work. That workers are entitled to social security and pension. These and many other rights were gained through social movements. Social movements have shaped the world we live in and continue to do so. Based on the given passage, answer question 9 and 10. Question 9. Which of the following statements is incorrect? Answer A. The rights we enjoy just happened to exist. Others are correct. Question 10. Social movements is an important subject matter of sociology because answer D. 1, 2 and 3. First is, these protests were perceived by elites as a major threat to the established order of society. Second, crowd and the mob were not made up of anarchic hooligans out to destroy society. Instead, they too had a moral economy. And third, public resorted to protest because they had no other way of expressing their anger and resentment against deprivation. Question 11. Which of the following statements is not true for the Indian government's policy of liberalization? Answer C. Indian companies have ensured that they work within national boundaries. Question 12. Which of the following is not true for stereotypes? Answer B. They are flexible characterizations of a group of people. Question 13. Assertion A. Sanskritization normally presupposes either an improvement in the economic or political position of the group concerned or a higher group self-consciousness resulting from its contact with the source of the great tradition. Reason are, in a highly unequal society such as India, there were and still are obstacles to any easy taking over of the customs of the higher caste by the lower. Answer B. Both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation of A. Question 14. Assertion A. No social group, howsoever weak or oppressed, is only a victim. Reason are, human beings are always capable of organizing and acting on their own, often against very heavy odds, to struggle for justice and dignity. Answer A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. Question 15. Which of the following statements is true for the tea plantations established by the British in India? Answer A. The colonial administrators were clear that the measures taken on the plantation for laborers was different vis-a-vis the planters. Question 16. Put the following statements in the correct order. So friends, answer is A. Third, second, first and fourth. So the correct order is third. The contractor goes to villages and asks if people want work. Second, he will loan them some money. First, the worker works without wages until the loan is repaid. Fourth, they can break the contract and find another employer. Section B. Question 17. The dependency ratio is equal to the population below 15 or above 64 divided by population in the 15 to 64 age group. This is usually expressed as a percentage. In 2020, the average Indian was only 29 years old, compared with an average age of 37 in China and the United States, 45 in Western Europe, and 48 in Japan. What inference can you draw from this statement? Answer: demographic window of opportunity available to India if harnessed appropriately, slowly growing aging population in rest of the countries as compared to India. Question 18. Prejudice can be either positive or negative. Support the statement with suitable examples. Answer: for example, a person may be prejudiced in favor of members of his/her own caste or group and, without any evidence, believe them to be superior to members of other castes or group. Prejudice against female car drivers. Any other relevant example you can write here. Or, discrimination can be very hard to prove because it may not be open or explicitly stated. Support the statement with suitable examples. Answer: for example, the person who is refused a job because of his or her caste may be told that he or she was less qualified than others and that the selection was done purely on merit. Question 19. State how communalism is all about politics, not about religion. Answer: a communalist may or may not be a devout person, and devout believers may or may not be communalists. However, all communalists do believe in a political identity based on religion. The key factor is the attitude towards those who believe in other kinds of identities, including other religion based identities. Question 20. Give an example of an anomalous instance with regard to minority groups. Answer: religious minorities like the Parsis or Sikhs may be relatively well off economically, but they may still be disadvantaged in a cultural sense because of their small numbers relative to the overwhelming majority of Hindus. Or, people constituting a nation may actually be citizens or residents of different states. Answer: There are more Jamaicans living outside Jamaica than in Jamaica. That is, the population of non-resident Jamaicans exceeds that of resident Jamaicans. A different example is provided by dual citizenship laws. These laws allow citizens of a particular state to also simultaneously be citizens of another state. Thus, to cite one instance, Jewish Americans may be citizens of Israel as well as the USA. They can even serve in the armed forces of one country without losing their citizenship in the other country. Question 21. Begum Rokeya Shekhawat Hossain was born in a well-to-do Bengali Muslim family and was lucky to have a husband who was very liberal in outlook and encouraged her education first in Urdu and later in Bengali and English. She was already a successful author in Urdu and Bengali when she wrote Sultana's Dream to test her abilities in English. Why was Sultana's Dream considered a remarkable short story in context of struggle for women's equality and rights? Answer. This remarkable short story is probably the earliest example of science fiction writing in India and among the first by a woman author anywhere in the world. In her dream, Sultana visits a magical country where the gender roles are reversed. Men are confined to the home and observe parda while women are busy scientists vying with each other at inventing devices that will control the clouds and regulate rain and machines that fly or air cars. Question 22. Agrarian society can be understood in terms of its class structure. But we must also remember the structure is itself through the caste system. In rural areas, there is a complex relationship between caste and class. This relationship is not always straightforward. Give two examples to prove that the relationship is not straightforward. Answer. In most areas, the highest caste, the Brahmins, are not major land owners, and so they fall outside the agrarian structure although they are a part of rural society. In most regions of India, the major land owning groups belong to the upper caste. In each region, there are usually just one or two major land owning castes. Question 23. In the old social movements, the role of political parties was central. Political scientist Rajni Kothari attributes the surge of social movements in India in the 1970s to people's growing dissatisfaction with parliamentary democracy. As a result of this, people joined social movements or non-political party formations. What were the reasons for this growing dissatisfaction? Answer. Kothari argues that the institutions of the state have been captured by elites. Due to this, electoral representation by political parties is no longer an effective way for the poor to get their voices heard. People left out by the formal political system join social movements or non-party political formations in order to put pressure on the state from outside. Question 24. You need energy. The eyes move, the neck, the legs and the hands. Each part moves. Weaving is done under a continuous gaze. Weaving is done under a continuous gaze. One cannot go anywhere. The focus must be on the machine. When four machines run, all four must move together. They must not stop. Joshi 2003. The more mechanized an industry gets, the fewer people are employed. What are the reasons for this? Answer. Outsourcing. Most of them are exhausted by the age of 40 and take voluntary retirement. Question 25. Someone may be endowed with exceptional intelligence or talent or may have worked very hard to achieve their wealth and status. Does this statement reflect social stratification? Give reasons for your answer. Answer. No. Social inequality is not the outcome of innate or natural differences between people, but is produced by the society in which they live. Sociologists use the term social stratification to refer to a system by which categories of people in a society are ranked in a hierarchy. This hierarchy then shapes people's identity and experiences, their relations with others, as well as their access to resources and opportunities. Section C. Question 26. An alternative to the nation state then is the state nation, where various nations, be they ethnic, religious, linguistic, or indigenous identities, can coexist peacefully and cooperatively in a single state polity. What factors are required to build enduring state nations? Answer: explicit efforts are required to end the cultural exclusion of diverse groups and to build multiple and complementary identities. Such responsive policies provide incentives to build a feeling of unity in diversity. Citizens can find the institutional and political space to identify with both their country and their other cultural identities. Citizens can find the opportunity to build their trust in common institutions and to participate in and support democratic politics. Question 27. The present form of caste as a social institution has been shaped very strongly by both the colonial period as well as the rapid changes that have come about in independent India. The development activity of the state and the growth of private industry affected caste indirectly through the speeding up and intensification of economic change. How has economic change affected caste? Answer: modern industry created all kinds of new jobs for which there were no caste rules. Urbanization and the conditions of collective living in the cities made it difficult for the caste segregated patterns of social interaction to survive. Modern educated Indians, attracted to the liberal ideas of individualism and meritocracy, began to abandon the more extreme caste practices. Recruitment to industrial jobs, whether in the textile mills of Mumbai, the jute mills of Kolkata, or elsewhere, continued to be organized along caste and kinship based lines. The middlemen who recruited labor for factories tended to recruit them from their own caste and region, so that particular departments or shop floors were often dominated by specific caste. So friends, you can write any 4 points from the given 5. Question 28. In traditional India, caste system operated within a religious framework. Belief systems of purity and pollution were central to its practice. Today, it often functions as political pressure groups. Illustrate the process of secularization of caste. Answer: politics is a competitive enterprise. Its purpose is the acquisition of power for the realization of certain goals, and its process is one of identifying and manipulating existing and emerging alliances in order to mobilize and consolidate positions. The important thing is organization and articulation of support, and where politics is mass based, the point is to articulate support through the organizations in which the masses are to be found. It follows that where the caste structure provides one of the principal organizational clusters along which the bulk of the population is found to live, politics must strive to organize through such a structure. Politicians mobilize caste groupings and identities in order to organize their power. Or, the term modernization has a long history. From the 19th and more so the 20th century, the term began to be associated with positive and desirable values. People and societies wanted to be modern. In the early years, modernization referred to improvement in technology and production processes. Increasingly, however, the term had a wider usage. What, according to sociologists, constitutes the modernization process? Answer: modernity assumes that local ties and parochial perspectives give way to universal commitments and cosmopolitan attitudes. That the truths of utility, calculation, and science take precedence over those of the emotions, the sacred, and the non rational. That the individual rather than the group be the primary unit of society and politics. That the associations in which men live and work be based on choice, not birth. That mastery rather than fatalism orient their attitude toward the material and human environment. That identity be chosen and achieved, not ascribed and affirmed. That work be separated from family, residence, and community in bureaucratic organization. Friends, you can write any 4 points from the given 7 points. Question 29. A significant change in rural society that is linked to the commercialization of agriculture has been the growth of migrant agricultural labor. As traditional bonds of patronage between laborers or tenants and landlords broke down, and as the seasonal demand for agricultural labor increased in prosperous Green Revolution regions, a pattern of seasonal migration emerged. Elaborate on this pattern of migration. Answer: as traditional bonds of patronage between laborers or tenants and landlords broke down, and as the seasonal demand for agricultural labor increased in prosperous Green Revolution regions such as the Punjab, a pattern of seasonal migration emerged in which thousands of workers circulate between their home villages and more prosperous areas where there is more demand for labor and higher wages. Laborers migrate also due to the increasing inequalities in rural areas from the mid 1990s, which have forced many households to combine multiple occupations to sustain themselves. As a livelihood strategy, men migrate out periodically in search of work and better wages, while women and children are often left behind in their villages with elderly grandparents. Migrant workers come mainly from drought prone and less productive regions, and they go to work for part of the year on farms in Punjab and Haryana, or on brick kilns in UP, or construction sites in cities such as New Delhi or Bangalore. These migrant workers have been termed footloose labor by Jan Bremen. Question 30. Enumerate the indicators of the process of globalization of agriculture. Answer: contract farming, entry of MNCs, participation in WTO, circulation of labor. Question 31. Industrialization in the West is associated with the growth of a middle class. Discuss the Indian experience of the growth of this middle class. Answer: the substitutes offered by the East India Company and subsequently by the British government were land ownership and facilities for education in English. The facts that the first remained unconnected with agricultural productivity and the second with the mainstream of Indian cultural traditions imply show that the alternatives were not sufficient in the sense that they could not create any genuine middle class. We know only too well that the zamindars become parasites in land and the graduates job hunters. Industrialization is thus about the growth of new social groups in society and new social relationships. Question 32. The argument for a tribe caste distinction was founded on an assumed cultural difference between Hindu castes with their beliefs in purity and pollution and hierarchical integration, and animist tribals with their more egalitarian and kinship based modes of social organization. Is this distinction between tribes and caste viable? Give reasons for your answer. Answer: no. It was pointed out that the tribe peasantry distinction did not hold in terms of any of the commonly advanced criteria: size, isolation, religion, and means of livelihood. Some Indian tribes like Santhal, Gons, and Bhils are very large and spread over extensive territory. Certain tribes like Munda, Hos, and others have long since turned to settled agriculture. Even hunting gathering tribes like the Birhos of Bihar employ specialized households to make baskets, press oil, etc. It has also been pointed out in a number of cases that in the absence of other alternatives, caste or non-tribals have turned to hunting and gathering. You can write any 4 points from the given 5. Section D, question 33. Answer the questions given below based on the reading of the data given in the table. Table 4. Literacy rate in India, percentage of population 7 years of age and above. First column year, second column persons, third column males, fourth column females, and fifth column male female gap in literacy rate. A. What are the different factors which determine literacy rates in our country? Answer: gender, religion, social groups. B. How do inequalities in literacy rate lead to inequality across generations? Answer: literacy rates also vary by social group. Historically disadvantaged communities like the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes have lower rates of literacy, and rates of female literacy within these groups are even lower. Regional variations are still very wide, with states like Kerala approaching universal literacy, while states like Bihar are lagging far behind. The inequality in the literacy rate are especially important because they tend to reproduce inequality across generations. Illiterate parents are at a severe disadvantage in ensuring that their children are well educated, thus perpetuating existing inequalities. Question 33. For candidates with visual impairment, the literacy rate for women is 16.3%, less than the literacy rate for men. However, female literacy has been rising faster than male literacy, partially because it started from relatively low levels. Female literacy rose by about 10.4% between 2001 and 2011, compared to the rise in male literacy of 7.6% in the same period. Literacy increased approximately 8% in total. Male literacy rose about 5%, whereas female literacy rose about 10%. A. What are the different factors which determine literacy rates in our country? B. How do inequalities in literacy rate led to inequality across generations? So friends, we have already read the answers of the following questions. Now let's move on to question 34. Job recruitment as factory worker takes a different pattern. Discuss. Answer. In the past, many workers got their jobs through contractors or jobbers. In the Kanpur textile mills, these jobbers were known as mistris and were themselves workers. They came from the same regions and communities as the workers, but because they had the owner's backing, they bossed over the workers. On the other hand, the mistri also put community related pressures on the worker. Nowadays, the importance of the jobber has come down, and both management and unions play a role in recruiting their own people. Many workers also expect that they can pass on their jobs to their children. Many factories employ badali workers who substitute for regular permanent workers who are on leave. Many of these badli workers have actually worked for many years for the same company but are not given the same status and security. This is what is called contract work in the organized sector. Last question, question 35. How did peasant movements evolve from pre-colonial days to post-colonial times? Answer. The movements in the period between 1858 and 1914 tended to remain localized, disjointed and confined to particular grievances. Well known are the Bengal Revolt of 1859 to 62 against the indigo plantation system and the Deccan Riots of 1857 against money lenders. Some of these issues continued into the following period and under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi became partially linked to the independence movement. For instance, the Bardoli Satyagraha 1928 Surat district, a non-tax campaign as part of the nationwide non-cooperation movement. In the 1920s, protest movements against the forest policies of the British government and local rulers arose in certain regions. Between 1920 and 1940, peasant organizations arose. The first organization to be founded was the Bihar Provincial Kisan Sabha 1929 and in 1936 the All India Kisan Sabha. The peasants organized by the Sabhas demanded freedom from economic exploitation for peasants, workers and all other exploited classes. At the time of independence, we had the two most classical cases of peasant movements, namely the Tebhaga movement 1946 to 47 and the Telangana movement 1946 to 51. The first was a struggle of sharecroppers in Bengal in North Bihar for two-thirds share of their produce instead of the customary half. New farmers' movements began in the 1970s in Punjab and Tamil Nadu. These movements were regionally organized, were non-party and involved farmers rather than peasants. Farmers are said to be market involved as both commodity producers and purchasers. The basic ideology of the movement was strongly anti-state and anti-urban. The focus of demand was price and related issues. For example, price procurement, remunerative prices, prices for agricultural inputs, taxation, non-repayment of loans. Novel methods of agitation were used, blocking of roads and railways, refusing politicians, and so on. Friends, we have completed the sample question paper SQP for Sociology class 12. If you like the video, kindly like it and share it with your friends. Thank you for watching.